It's Big T coming at you from Minnesota. We are here again one more time, and we got some tech talk we're going to be doing with you tonight. Wednesday night's Pulsar Halo TV. That's what we focus on, is the technology that you have available in front of you with Pulsar Halo. So we've got a couple of things that I've got here lined up tonight I want to talk about, and as you can... Oh, no, you can't see it. Watch this. As you can see at the bottom of your screen, tonight we're going to be talking about your security options. Not all of them, but just a couple of security options available with Pulsar Halo. Just to get you informed, because it's always better to be more educated than not. And what was it? I saw a post today that said the road to success is always under construction. That's what it was. So the road to success is always under construction, which means you're always learning. You're always learning new things. And so we're going to talk to you about having some great success with your Pulsar Halo system, professional grade system that we brought into the DIY market. So anyway, so those of you that are on here tonight, we got a few of them coming on. Fast and Furious on the Facebook. I don't know how many are on YouTube. I don't have that one in front of me. But it doesn't matter. If you want to get on to the Halo Nation Facebook page, have any questions while I go through some of this, go ahead and post them there. I got a 20-second delay here, so give me some time to see your text. I'm looking at them right there. So I'm going to say hello to Brian Ireland's on here. The man, the CEO of Pulsar Halo, is here judging me, so I might get fired if I don't do a good job. Jean Marie is with us, Jeff Hoff, BJ Dudley, Cheryl Westerman, Donna Lanford, Scott Clementson, Dean Johnson. There's a couple more down here that are coming. So anyway, well, I'm going to get right into a couple of things. I don't want to go over time. Probably we try and cut it to about 30 minutes. But as you can see right here, I've got in front of me some of the security devices that are some options for you with your Pulsar Halo system. So this here is the keypad that comes with your system. Everybody really knows about that. I'm going to just one little tip about what this can do. This is the outdoor motion sensor. This is the indoor motion sensor. This is the door sensors. And then this is what they call the Metal Max. It's on our website as an accessory. It's a Metal Max, so I'm going to describe kind of what that's for. It's actually an accessory for these motion sensors. So I'm going to go over some details about that here in just a second. So, but before I do, I want to remind everybody, if you've got questions that you want answered about some of these products, don't hesitate to send an email in to Pulsar Halo. You can send it to me, tmalberg@pulsarhalo.com, and I can put these on the list of topics that people want to learn about, because we hear all the time that people would like more education about their system and some training. So when you're out there promoting this product, it's good to have more information than less. So let me know if there's more details about other specific products that you want to know about, and we'll get it on the show. So anyway, well, let me get right into some of these here. The first one I'm going to start with is this, the pin pad that comes with your system. And really, there's not much to it. Basically, there's, and actually this will usually be gone when it's shipped. Basically, all you do is you peel the tape off here and stick it up on your wall. But then you've got the option, once it's on your wall, now you can pop it open and, there's the battery, or you can pop it open before you put it on the wall. I recommend taking this thing off first before you mount it to the wall, because then you've got easier to kind of level it out, and then you can kind of press where the stickers are if that's what you want to do. The other option you have here is there is a hole right here in the middle, and if you can find a screw that'll fit in that hole, if you want some little extra security, or maybe you don't want to stick the sticky things to your wall, you'd rather just punch a hole in it, well, you can do that. There's nothing saying you can't put a screw through that. Put a couple of holes over here, whatever. But I have with one of my installations, just to make sure that it was going to stay secured, because it was mounted to a metal door, and I wasn't for sure that the tape was going to hold it. I've never had any of these fall off. But if you do want that extra security, that's right there. But then now you're in here, so you can change the batteries if you want. You can swap, you know, once the batteries get low, you'll get a notification on your panel that says, it usually just says keypad trouble, I think is what it tells you. But it typically means there's a battery low on it. So then you can just snap that back in place once you change the batteries. So just a little tip about that thing right there. We'll put that off to the side. Get into some more details about some stuff. The other one I want to talk about right away, because anybody that has a system has these door sensors. And they're, again, very simple. Peel the tape off and stick them up. Now, here's a couple of tips. It's recommended that, if possible, depending on your door frame and the type of door construction that you have, it's recommended, but not required, that this sensor go on the door jamb. And I'll just use this as an example. So you got the door jamb. So this sensor goes on the door jamb, and then the little magnet goes on the door. And the reason for that is that way, when the door is opening and closing, it's not jarring this sensor. Some people will put the sensor here, which can be done, and then the magnet on this side. There's nothing saying that that can't be done. That just, you know, it's just recommended, if possible, do it the other way, because this door opening and closing, it's always jamming that sensor, and you know, with any of electronics, you know, this thing gets jostled around enough, and you know, there's some things that could affect, or the battery might slide, you know, whatever. So it's recommended, if possible, to put this on the jamb, the sensor on the door jamb, and then the magnet, the small magnet on the door, because then that alleviates any jarring around. The other thing is, especially, you know, some older houses where it's an outside door and it opens to the outside, for instance, you don't want this sensor opening to the outside, let's say, for instance, in the rain. So if the door opens to the outside and the sensor's out there, well, then the sensor is going to get rained on, potentially, you know, things like that. So now, obviously, there's many instances where that doesn't work, especially with all the moldings and things like that, to where putting the sensor on the door itself and then the magnet on the door jamb is ultimately your only option. Now, as you can see how these things are cut, you know, there's a flat side with that little tiny notch on it. You know, if you can see that notch there, you know, that's typically, you want those notches facing each other on the door when the sensor is mounted. So you want those facing each other. But there are instances, for instance, like a patio door or something like that, to where you've got, oh, my camera's not focusing like I want it to, where you've got the patio door that slides. Let's say it's a sliding door, so it slides left and right. There's a couple of ways you can do that. Sometimes, because I get in situations where the sensors can't line up exactly like this because the door jamb is a little higher or something to that effect. You don't have to have the magnet facing this end. You can set it up to where the magnet's here or here. As long as that magnet is in proximity of this flat end of the sensor, then it's fine. So let's say, for instance, on a patio door, you know, you might have to mount this on the top and mount this down here to where when the patio door moves, it slides to the left and then comes back. And so those are some options that you can utilize. Hold on just a second. I got video options on that. There we go. So then if you got a patio door that slides, you might want to mount this at the top and then this on the top of the door so it slides away and then it slides back to it again. You know, because sometimes people are kind of confused. Oh, it's supposed to just open and close. Well, it's still, as long as that magnet gets in proximity of that sensor, it'll slide away, and then it can slide too. Or, you know, maybe the top of your sill on the patio door kind of comes out like this. Well, then you can mount this to the patio door, and then this doesn't have to stick flat. You could take the sticky side and just stick it to the top, as long as it's stuck to the top of the door and it still can come within proximity. So you don't always have to have the sticky sides both flat like this. If that doesn't work and you have to stick it to the top of the patio door, let's say this is the top, so all I do is I take my sensor and I stick it to the top of the door, so it's like that. Oh, so now it's sticking to this thing, and then when the door opens up, it comes in that proximity. So there's several different ways, just some tips and tricks to that. Now, there's going to be also instances when this sensor is mounted on a metal door, and that's where this Metal Max mounting system comes into place, because sometimes this metal door interferes with the transmission of this sensor. And again, if we go back to another reason why it's recommended that this goes on the door sill, so it's not sitting on a metal door, not interfering. So that's one way to try and alleviate that, is if you have a metal door and it's causing interference, you may have to peel this off, get some new 3M tape to put on here, and stick it on the sill or the molding, and then the magnet goes on the metal door, and that might alleviate some transmission issues. But if that still doesn't do it, that's where this Metal Max mounting system comes into place. Now, all this does, these are just two little plastic pieces, and instead of the mounting tape being on the back of the sensor, what this is just a new cover that goes on the sensor, so it mounts it to where it sits upright instead of laying flat. So instead of the sensor laying flat on the door like such, now what they're doing is they're tipping that up in this new sensor in order to have the antenna sticking out farther to where it can have better transmission. So let me show you a little bit how that works. All you really have to do with these Metal Max sensors, you've got your door sensors right here, and then these Metal Max mounts just help raise it up a little bit. So let me show you. You can see that there's a notch on this sensor to where you can stick your thumbnail in there. You can pop it open, and if you notice, the bottom part with the sticky tape is basically just a cover. That's really all it is. So we're just going to replace this door sensor. Instead of putting it on this cover that sits flat, we're going to put this cover on it that sits upright. So all we do is take that sensor now and we push it into this Metal Max mount. And so now, as you can see, the sensor has tape on the back side of it, or on the top of it, so it takes it from this position on the door to this position on the door. And then this part of it just extends the reach of this sensor. And there are some instances in just a traditional door to where if you could just extend that sensor up a little bit, it would reach the mount on your sensor, because just the way it is. But anyway, so what this does is this just raises this thing up, where now, because your sensor's being flipped upright on your metal door, now this gets raised up to meet it. And so now you can peel sticky tape off of these two devices, and now the sensor sits like this instead of them sitting like this. So that's what that Metal Max cover is for. It's just a plastic cover. It's only a couple of bucks on the website, and that helps to where now you can get better reception having this thing mounted on a door. So anyway, that's all I got to cover about that. I just wanted to show you those options that you have with those sensors. So I'm going to put those off to the side. Just a few tips and tricks about that. And let's get into some motion sensors. So this sensor right here is the indoor sensor. Let me get the directions here. And these are infrared sensors. So they're PIR sensors. Passive infrared. That's what PIR stands for, is passive infrared. They have pet immunity on them for pets up to 80 pounds. Is it 60 pounds? Make sure I got all my stats right. I had it in front of me and now should have circled it. Yeah, I think it's 60 pounds. Let's see where it tells me. Let's look down. Yeah, 2 dogs at 60 pounds or 1 at 80 pounds. So there you go. Depends on how big your dog is, but it has an immunity to it. Now, these here are very simple as well. They come in the box with some 2-sided tape strips that you can use to mount your motion sensor. Now, if you're mounting it on a flat wall, you could take that tape and change something here. And so you could take that tape and you can mount it right down the center here. I recommend taking it and mounting it on the sides, so you can put 2 strips. Just make sure it's got good contact. The other thing is if you're putting it in a corner, as you can see, this thing is angled so it will fit right into a corner, which in that case, you can mount the tape right here on the side of this and on the other side, and now you can press that thing right into a corner and it will be mounted into the corner like that. Now, if you're like me and a little anal and you want a little bit extra protection, and what I like to do is put a screw in it. Now you can see there's holes here that are pre-formed for a screw. Not the easiest thing to do, but it's not really that difficult either. So what you have to do is you have to take the cover off of this thing, which the cover comes off fairly simply. You just take your thumbnail and push on that, and that releases the bottom. And when that bottom is released, now you can take the cover off. Now, in order to get at that spot in the back where the screw is, it's not very difficult. If you look here, there's a little tab right here, and that tab will allow you to carefully pivot out the circuit board that's in there. So what I just do is I kind of just lightly grab the battery box that's right here, and then I just push on this tab. And now, once that tab's pushed in, you can carefully remove this battery or the circuit board, and now you have access to just the case. And you can see, it's very easy to see where the screws can go. And what I like to do is I'll just drill a little hole through one or both of these. Typically, I only need usually one. And then you can put the screw that comes in the box, and it comes with anchors that you can put in if you want to punch a hole in just sheetrock. You slide that anchor in there, and then you can use the screw to go in through the hole into that anchor. A lot of times these things are light enough. As long as you don't strip the screw out in the sheetrock, you can typically just put the screw through that hole into the sheetrock to hold it, because these things, like I said, are really light. They don't need a lot to hold them in place. But, that's just an idea for you to be able to get in there to where if you do want to secure this thing and mount it because you maybe don't trust the tape, or it's, whatever, you don't want to use tape, that there is that option there that people may have not gotten to. Now, once you get the sensor mounted to the wall, you put the screw through it. Now you just carefully take the circuit board that was in there, and you line up these edges in the slots. You can see there's 2 little pieces right there where you can stick those in here. and then you just snap that down into place, and now you can put your cover back on. Now obviously you're going to need, if your battery hasn't been pulled, now if this got shipped to you from Pulsar Halo, that battery tab has already been pulled, so you have, you know, the battery's already in there ready to rock and roll. So now you can just snap the cover back on, put the top on first, and then snap the bottom back in place, and you should be good to go. So so that's just a couple tips with the motion sensor. Put that back in the box, because I'm going to be using that one out at the farmhouse. And then the other thing that I just got and I'm excited about is the outdoor motion sensor. It's a weatherproof sensor, so it's not, you know, rain, snow, sleet, or, well, I won't say hail, but rain, snow, sleet shouldn't affect it. You know, it won't destroy it. Now, a good hailstorm might wreck the front and the casing and, you know, things like that. But this motion sensor has a little bit longer range. The effective range for detection for this outdoor motion sensor is 16.4 feet. So that can reach, you know, at least 15 feet out from wherever you're at. So you may, you know, the applications for this can be, you know, on a front porch, in a backyard, by a carport, a gate entrance, on your deck, garage, screen porches, driveways, sidewalks, public, you know, so you can use it in whatever areas you want. Now, you may or may not want this to be on your alarm system. Now, if you don't, you know, because sometimes outdoor stuff, you don't want your house alarm going off every time it sees motion, but you can get it and set it to where it does some self-monitoring, or can be used for triggers for your cameras. And that's the nice part about our system, because it's integrating security devices with your automation and video devices, so they all integrated and working together. One of the key selling points of why our system is superior is because you have all those options that are now communicating with each other. So this motion sensor can act as a trigger for whatever you decide that you can set up in your web portal. So this motion sensor, I can say, I want this motion sensor to trigger my backyard camera to record. Or I want this motion sensor to trigger my backyard light to turn on and my camera to record. Or I want this motion sensor to trigger a scene, which is turning on my backyard camera, light, whatever I want. I can have it trigger a scene, and I can have that scene set up to where I want the back porch light, the backyard light, the cameras to record, whatever. So what I'm going to use this for out at the farm is the driveway for the farm is right by the house. And so I'm going to mount it on the side of the house, and it will notify me, and it will also send a recording to my phone of who's driving in the yard, because I'm not there most times. I'm, you know, only there on maybe 1 or 2 weekends a month. But if somebody drives in my yard, I'm going to use this as basically my driveway sensor, because it's an outdoor motion sensor and it's close enough to the driveway to where it should pick up that kind of motion. So, so anyway, that's what this motion sensor is. You know, I'll pop this back cover off of here so you can see. Now, the proper way to mount this is vertical like this. There's 2 sensors on this one, and if you look at these directions, what the purpose of those 2 sensors is it's got multiple views that it looks at, where you can see that the detection length, and you can set it to where there's a close detection, or they can both be far away detection. But that's why there's multiple sensors that it can use here. So it's got, especially in an outdoor environment, you know, it's not just a small path. I mean, you know, they might be 15 feet away, they might be only 4 feet away, to where this sensor will detect the 15-foot person, where it might miss someone who's only 4 feet away, to where this one will detect that. So it's got the normal motion sensor, and then it's basically got a long range sensor here. So that's kind of why it's got 2-in-1. It's a little bit more expensive, and it's weatherproof. So, but the mounting for this one is actually relatively simple. You just take this one screw out at the bottom, And now once that screw is out, this back cover pops off. And so now, and you can see that there's the battery inside there. Still got the battery tab on it, so it's not wasting my battery. Obviously, you'll need to pull that before you remount it. But now, this is the vertical upright position. This is the top, this is the bottom. And I just pulled this back cover off of here. And now, I can go in, and you can see these holes here. I can drill out holes for screws here. And it's got weatherproof caps over the holes on the inside. So, because you don't want rainwater leaking in once you get it mounted. So now you can take your screws and punch them through here and here and drill those holes. Mount those screws right through those holes there, and then you put these. Once it's mounted, then you put these weatherproof caps on here, so rainwater can't get into the electronics part of it. And as you can see, there's a seal, you know, around this edge here to protect it from any rain coming in from the outside. So it's a pretty well designed system. So then all I'd have to do is pull this battery tab, make sure that battery's in there securely, and then I take this and I'll just slide it in the same way it came out. It'd work better if it wasn't sliding all over my desktop. So you push it up in there, and then you finish pushing it on, and now you can take this one screw that you got to secure it, and you re-secure it in the bottom once you get it mounted to wherever you're going to mount it. The side of the house, a pole, a deck rail, you know, whatever it is. Now the recommended height for this sensor, sorry about that, and that's one of the things I didn't talk about. The recommended height that you want to mount the indoor sensors, you know, is approximately 8 feet, you know, 8 to 9 feet up on the wall. So you want to make it, you know, 8 to 9 feet up for the best pet immunity. You know, the higher up you can put it, the better it's going to be ineffective with dogs and things like that. So another trick that Brian told me is if you do have some big pets in the house, one of the things that you can do is mount the sensor lower on the wall and then flip it upside down. Because what happens with this sensor, when it's upright, the sensors in this sensor are projecting down like this. So this is the sensor, it's mounted on the wall. They're projecting kind of down this way. So it's projecting, the sensors looking out like this in kind of that formation. So in order to, if somebody has, you know, pretty large pets and that's becoming a problem, one of the things that they can do is mount it upside down and then slide the sensor down the wall about halfway. And so now it's not detecting anything down here. It's only detecting what's straight in front of it and up. So it's just kind of a trick for people that do have large pets. If they still want to have some kind of motion sensing, that's one of the tricks that they can use. But primarily, it's supposed to be mounted this way, about between 7.5 and 9.5 feet up on the wall. And then it detects down from that sensor. Well, this sensor does the same thing. Now, the recommended height for the outdoor one is... oh, it's not as high. So the recommended height for the outdoor one is about 4 feet. 4 feet off the ground, which is kind of nice because then you don't have to have it real high outside. So you got 4 feet off the ground. I'll show you that there. So it's 3.9 feet off the ground, but it'll detect out 16.4 feet. And this is the kind of the detection. So if somebody's walking close to the sensor, the bottom sensor is detecting them. And for walking far away from the sensor, the top one is detecting them. So pretty cool. This is the first time I've been looking at this one, so I'm learning with you as we go along. It's extremely important to stay within the recommended heights of 2 to 4 feet, or 2.5 to 4 feet, to prevent missed and unwanted alarms. Good to know. So that's the outdoor motion sensor. This is the indoor motion sensor. Obviously, you know the door sensors and the NanoMax, and a couple of tips about just in a way that you can mount that if you need to. So that's all I've got for you tonight. I hope you've learned something. If you haven't, consider yourself very well informed on the Pulsar Halo security options that we have. And remember that all these security sensors are military grade encrypted. They use the Cryptex encryption to where somebody can't hack these sensors. The security sensors all have that encryption on them to make them unhackable. So that's what makes ours perfect. Because like I said, I've said it many times, there's professional systems out there that don't have the type of encryption that we have professionally installed. Because ours is a professional system. We've just brought it into the DIY market, so you and I get to control it. So anyway, that's all I got for tonight. Big T signing off from Pulsar Halo TV. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.